Are you sick of paying $2,300 a month to live in a shoebox with thin walls and mystery smells? Because right now there are states in America where you can buy land for $500 an acre, live completely off-grid, and never pay another utility bill again. Legally. I'm talking no zoning, no permits, no neighbors, and no rules. Just raw land, full freedom, and the kind of silence that makes you question every life choice that led to you paying $19.99 for Wi-Fi that barely loads cat videos. Over 1.7 million Americans have already ditched the grid, and that number's rising every year as inflation eats your paycheck and housing costs hit record highs. Meanwhile, some counties are literally giving land away just to get people to move there. So if you're ready to unplug, build your own kingdom, and survive off beans, solar power, and spite, this is the list you've been waiting for. Let's get into the 10 states where off-grid living is practically free, before everybody else finds out and ruins it. Number 10, Arkansas, where the land is cheap and the laws are basically a suggestion. If you're looking for a place where you can vanish into the woods, build a house out of sticks, and never hear the word HOA again, welcome to Arkansas, America's unofficial witness protection program for off-gridders. Now, let's talk numbers. You can snag raw land here for as low as $1,200 an acre in the Ozarks. That's not a typo. That's what some people pay for a month of daycare or one confused trip to Whole Foods. In Arkansas, that kind of cash gets you rolling hills, spring-fed creeks, and enough trees to build your cabin twice. Once the first version collapses because you YouTubed how to frame a roof. The best part? The state seems aggressively uninterested in your business. Building codes in rural counties range from optional to, what's a building code? You want to live in a school bus parked on a hill with a rainwater catchment system and composting toilet you invented from scratch? Go for it. You could dig a pit, call it a home sauna, and no one would blink, mostly because your nearest neighbor is a raccoon in a flannel. Power? Arkansas gets more than 200 sunny days a year, so solar is actually a win here. Water? That's the kicker. Natural springs and rivers are common, and well drilling costs are laughably low compared to most of the U.S. And let's not forget, Arkansas is blessed with no state income tax on military retirement pay, Social Security, or groceries. That's right, you can go full doomsday prepper and still afford Pop-Tarts and coffee. Praise be. But it's not all gravy and moonlight. Summer in Arkansas is a wet slap to the face. Think 90 degrees, 100% humidity, and mosquitoes the size of smart cars. You'll learn to accept sweating through your clothes as a lifestyle choice. And yes, tornadoes are on the menu. But hey, if your house has no foundation, there's technically nothing to uproot. Still, the charm of Arkansas lies in its lawless hospitality. People will wave at you from porches they built themselves and sell you eggs out of coolers on the roadside. It's got that perfect blend of wild and welcoming, a place where you can go off-grid without going off the deep end, unless you want to. And if you do, no one's stopping you. Number 9, Missouri, the show me state that just showed you the exit sign from Society, Missouri. You've probably heard of it, maybe even driven through it on the way to somewhere else. But what you didn't know is this. Missouri is one of the cheapest and most under-the-radar off-grid paradises in the continental U.S. And it's not just cheap, it's suspiciously cheap. Like, you can buy land on eBay kind of cheap. In counties like Shannon or Oregon, yes, Missouri has a county named Oregon, don't ask, you can find parcels for $1,000 an acre, and sometimes less. And here's the twist. Missouri has no statewide building codes. That's not a loophole. That's the law. Individual counties can decide whether or not to enforce codes, and many don't. Translation? You can build whatever weird survival compound or Hobbit-themed homestead your heart desires without ever applying for a permit. Want to start a goat-powered ice cream business out of a repurposed grain silo? Missouri says go nuts. The water situation? Glorious. Springs, rivers, and rainfall make Missouri one of the most water-rich inland states in America. Wells are common and relatively affordable, but a lot of off-gridders skip that entirely and just set up large cisterns or elaborate rainwater systems because, why not? Missouri's annual rainfall averages around 43 inches. That's more than Seattle. Electricity? With this much sun in summer and steady winds on the Ozark Plateau, solar and wind hybrids work great. But let's get real. Most folks here don't care about a flawless energy plan. They care about chopping wood, fixing fences, and figuring out how to wire a 12V battery to a chest freezer without blowing up the barn. Now let's address the elephant in the woods, the weather. Winters are cold but survivable. Summers? Muggy? Tornadoes? Yes. You will develop a weather sixth sense that wakes you up at 2 a.m. screaming, "It's twister time." And don't forget the wildlife. This is bear, bobcat, and copperhead country. The upside? You'll never feel alone. The downside? You'll never feel alone. But here's why Missouri's off-grid culture is so strong: the people. There's an entire community here living outside the grid, often bartering eggs for ammo, goat cheese for garden tools. Farmers' markets here sometimes look like swap meets from an alternate timeline. Everyone's doing something weird, and no one's judging. So if you're ready to grow a beard that doubles as insulation and learn the difference between a possum hiss and a raccoon growl, Missouri is waving you in with muddy boots and a shotgun wedding to nature. Number 8. New Mexico. Land of enchantment, poverty, and zero questions about your lifestyle. All right, look. New Mexico is wild. And I don't just mean the landscape. I mean the fact that you can buy land here for under $500 an acre in places so remote, your mail has to be delivered by Hope and prairie dogs. If Arizona is the sun-blasted sibling, New Mexico is the artsy cousin who dropped out of society and started weaving their own clothes from tumbleweed fibers. And somehow, they're thriving. Let's get into the grit. Rural New Mexico has some of the least restrictive zoning laws in the country. You can build earthships, actual homes made out of old tires, beer bottles, and adobe mud. Not only does nobody stop you, they actually encourage it. This state is ground zero for intentional communities, eco-villages, and that one guy who makes his own electricity from potatoes and attitude. Solar? Oh yeah. With 300+ sunny days a year, it's basically cheating. Your panels will be so productive you'll start wondering why you didn't move here sooner. Water's the tricky bit. New Mexico is dry, like drink humidity out of the air dry. Many off-gridders haul water or set up massive catchment systems. Wells? They exist, but you might hit bedrock and have to weep into your rain barrel. But here's the real magic. Nobody is watching. You want to disappear into 20 acres and only come into town for duct tape and chili peppers? Done. You want to walk around your property wearing nothing but sandals and a bad attitude? Go for it. New Mexico doesn't care. The cops don't even show up unless you call them twice and offer snacks. And then there's cost of living. Dirt cheap. Property taxes here hover around $800 per year for 40+ acres. That's not a joke. That's less than some people pay for car insurance per month. No HOA, no state police breathing down your neck, just land, sky, and the occasional UFO sighting that you're pretty sure wasn't just the neighbor's drone again. If you're tired of being overregulated, overtaxed, and underinspired, New Mexico is waiting. And it's bringing sage smoke, solar flares, and the haunting sound of coyotes yodeling you to sleep. Number 7. Kentucky. Bourbon, bluegrass, and the best kept off-grid. Secret in the South. Kentucky is one of those states people forget exists until they taste the moonshine or accidentally drive into it looking for Ohio. But for off-grid living, it's gold. Hidden gold. Like 800 an acre and nobody asks questions kind of gold. In the Appalachian regions and rural counties like Elliott or Harlan, you can find parcels so remote you'll have to introduce yourself to the deer before you start building. And let me hit you with this. No building permits required in many rural counties. That's right. You can build a castle, a shed, or a llama-shaped cabin. And as long as you're not blowing stuff up, the county says, good luck. Some locals will even help you frame your walls if you pay them in cornbread or home-cured bacon. Water is a breeze. Kentucky is drenched in streams, springs, and aquifers, and most homesteaders can hit water with a stick. Many even rig up old-school ram pumps to get gravity-fed water to their homes without electricity. Electricity? Solar works, but you'll be playing hide-and-seek with the sun during rainy spring months. Wind is meh. But wood. Wood is your power plant. It heats your home, cooks your food, and in a pinch becomes the floor when you run out of lumber. Now here's what nobody tells you. Kentucky is a prepper paradise. There are entire towns where people barter, farm, fish, and hunt, all under the radar. Guns are everywhere, so is herbal medicine. The older folks know how to treat a snakebite with a leaf and a prayer, and they will teach you, if you bring pie. But don't get it twisted. Kentucky has quirks. The bugs are organized. The humidity sticks to you like guilt. And if you hear banjo music deep in the woods, you better hope it's just someone's Bluetooth speaker. That said, the people here have hearts as big as their dogs and a strong belief in personal freedom. No one cares what you do as long as you keep your goats off their lawn. So if you're ready to raise chickens, plant potatoes, and disappear into the hills with nothing but a tool belt and a dream, Kentucky is waiting with a glass of sweet tea and a dozen free pallets. Just be warned, once you live off-grid in Kentucky, the rest of the world starts looking ridiculous. Number 6. West Virginia. Almost heaven, definitely off-grid, and probably haunted West Virginia. The state that time forgot? And honestly, it's fine with that. If you've ever looked at your electric bill and thought, what if I just walked into the forest and never came back? West Virginia is already holding the door open. This state is so off the radar that the DMV still prints forms in triplicate. And I mean that lovingly. Because if your dream is freedom, cheap land, and absolutely nobody watching you, this place is pure gold wrapped in fog. Land here is absurdly cheap. In rural counties like McDowell, Wyoming, yes, again, and Clay, you can pick up acres of land for $500 to $1,000 per acre. That's not just a deal. That's, I lost more money in my couch cushions during college, kind of cheap. And this isn't desert scrubland or empty flat plains. We're talking dense Appalachian forest with springs, creeks, cliffs, caves, and the occasional abandoned coal mine that probably has a ghost or two living rent-free. Now here's where it gets weird, in a good way. West Virginia has almost no statewide zoning laws. Many counties don't enforce permits, inspections, or building codes for residential property in rural zones. You can literally build a shack with old billboard signs, install a wood stove you found on Craigslist, and no one will bat an eye. Unless you're trying to open a theme park for possums, you're probably good. Water is everywhere. Natural springs, creeks, rainwater. You'll trip over a fresh water source just trying to pee behind a tree. Wells are shallow and cheap in many regions, and the locals will happily teach you how to find one using nothing but a forked stick and superstition. Electricity? Go solar, go micro-hydro, or just say no and live by candlelight like a proud Appalachian cryptid. Winter here is no joke. You'll need a chainsaw, a snow shovel, and the ability to yell at frozen pipes until they cooperate. Roads get icy, power lines sag, but you're off-grid, remember? You don't even have power lines. That's somebody else's problem now. Tornadoes are rare, but landslides, totally a thing. But the real threats? Ticks the size of pennies, black bears that think your compost pile is a buffet, and the ever-present possibility that your neighbor is an ex-moonshiner with an opinion about your fence placement. Still, people here are fiercely independent, endlessly kind, and suspicious in the best way. They won't ask you why you moved off-grid. They'll ask if you need help building a chicken coop or fixing your well pump. You'll go from stranger to family in 2 potlucks and a bottle of homemade hot sauce. And by the time you've survived your first ice storm with nothing but firewood and chili, you'll know. West Virginia isn't just off-grid. It's another dimension. And somehow, that's exactly what you needed. Number 5. Mississippi. Dirt cheap. Dirt, biblical rain, and absolutely no one telling you what to do. Mississippi doesn't just let you go off-grid, it practically begs you to. If West Virginia is the forgotten state, Mississippi is the one actively avoiding attention. This place is off the grid and off the record. It's where you can buy 10 acres of wooded land for the price of a new iPhone, build a house with a chainsaw and a dream, and live the kind of self-sufficient life that makes libertarians weep with joy. Let's start with the obvious. Land is insanely cheap. In counties like Jefferson Davis or Wilkinson, you can snag 5 to 10 acre parcels for under $5,000 total. Not per acre. Total. That's about what some people spend on gas in California just to get to work. And we're talking lush green land, the kind of place where vines grow on everything. The air smells like honeysuckle, And you're pretty sure at least one tree has an attitude. And there are 0 statewide building codes for private residences in unincorporated areas. That's right. You want to build a treehouse village and live like Tarzan? Go ahead. Mississippi will not stop you. You could install a solar panel on a chicken coop and call it a power station, and nobody's showing up with a clipboard. Water? It falls from the sky in buckets. Mississippi averages over 56 inches of rainfall a year. One of the highest in the U.S. Set up rain catchment barrels, and you'll be drowning in fresh water. Sometimes literally. Wells are cheap to dig, but most people don't even bother until they've maxed out their rainwater tanks. The soil is fertile, which is code for plant anything and it will grow aggressively. Tomatoes, squash, weeds, they all fight for dominance in the Mississippi jungle. Now, the flip side. Humidity. You will sweat in places you didn't know you could sweat. Bugs? They have jobs and pay rent. Fire ants, mosquitoes, wasps, all part of the neighborhood welcome committee, but you'll get used to it. Eventually. Maybe. Probably not. But at least they're consistent. People here are old school. They value freedom, faith, and fixing things with duct tape. You won't be judged for living off-grid. If anything, you'll be invited to the local feed store to talk about goats and barter for mason jars. Just don't try to tell anyone what to do, and you'll fit right in. And here's a little-known gem. Mississippi has some of the lowest property taxes in the nation, averaging around $650 per year for a home on land. That's not just low. That's practically non-existent. No HOA, no inspections, no nosy neighbors asking why you built a windmill out of junkyard parts and moonshine barrels. Mississippi is a humid, green, bug-infested off-grid paradise. And I mean that in the most flattering way possible. If you want land, freedom, and enough rain to build your own indoor lake, this is your spot. Just bring a fly swatter and a whole lot of resolve. Number 4. Nevada. Welcome to Mars. Now build a cabin. When you think off-grid, your mind probably doesn't jump straight to Nevada. You're picturing casinos, flashing lights, and Elvis impersonators sweating through polyester. But take one step outside Vegas, literally one, and it's like you've entered another planet. And that planet is dirt cheap and very, very dry. Welcome to Nevada, the Martian landscape where off-grid living is not just tolerated, it's inevitable. Let's start with land prices. In counties like Elko, Nye, and Humboldt, 5-acre lots can go for $3,000 or less. And this isn't junk land. This is high desert, open sky, and so much silence you'll hear your own heartbeat echoing off the mountains. There's no traffic, no nosy inspectors, and no one within earshot when you scream because your homemade composting toilet just exploded. Again, zoning laws, minimal. In many unincorporated areas, you can build what you want, how you want, when you want. A dome made of recycled cans? Fine. A solar-powered shack built out of old pallets? Cool. An underground bunker shaped like your ex's tears? Weirdly specific, but go for it. Power? Nevada is a solar monster. The state gets over 290 days of sunshine a year. Your solar panels will work overtime, tan your batteries, and make you feel like a wizard. Water, though, that's where things get spicy. You're in the desert now. Wells can be expensive and sometimes impossible, depending on the depth. Most off-gridders rely on massive water tanks and haul water in from nearby towns, or collect rain, but good luck. The sky here is stingy, but here's the upside. You'll never deal with rust, rot, mold, or bugs. Why? Because nothing survives here unless it's got a scorpion shell and a mean attitude. The dry air preserves your wood, your gear, and possibly your soul. And that isolation? Oh, it's next level. You can literally see for miles. Your nearest neighbor might be a tumbleweed named Carl, and Carl minds his business. Property taxes? Next to nothing. Nevada averages $600 to $900 a year for rural plots, and with no income tax, it's one of the most financially hands-off states in the U.S. You could be living off-grid, off-income, and off-script, and nobody's coming to ask why your only Wi-Fi signal is from a potato battery experiment gone wrong. The community of off-gridders here is strong, weird, helpful, and tough as nails. Think Mad Max meets solar-powered Etsy shop. People share tools, trade parts, and hold get-togethers where the dress code is dusty but resourceful. Nevada isn't for the faint of heart. It's for people who can build a shelter in 100-degree heat, fight off sandstorms with nothing but a tarp, and say, no thanks, to civilization with a smile. If that's you, Nevada's waiting. Just bring water, lots of water. Number 3, Montana, where the land is wild, the people are wilder, and the nearest Walmart is a legend. Montana isn't just a state. It's a geographic threat to your 9-to-5 lifestyle. This place is so vast, so untamed, and so aggressively unconcerned with modern expectations that you could live in the woods for 20 years and no one would ever ask what happened to you. And here's the kicker. It's wildly affordable, if you know where to look. In counties like Phillips, Roosevelt, and Bighorn, land sells for $400 to $800 an acre. That's not affordable. That's, I just canceled Netflix and bought a hillside money. The draw here is obvious. Space. Endless space. If you want to scream at the sky without anyone hearing you or caring, this is your place. The population density of rural Montana is so low that if you see a neighbor, you're legally obligated to wave because it might be the last human you see all week. And that isolation? That's freedom. No one's checking your roof for permits. No one's inspecting your composting toilet. You could build a cabin out of moose bones and sadness, and the county would probably just nod in approval. Montana has no state sales tax, and in many unincorporated areas, there are no building codes for single-family residences. That means you're free to build a yurt, an earthship, or a hobbit hole without some clipboard warrior asking for blueprints. Solar works well here, especially in the eastern plains, and wind? Oh, you'll get wind, the kind that knocks over outhouses and occasionally your sense of purpose. Water's a mixed bag. In mountainous areas, springs and creeks are everywhere, but on the plains, you'll want to dig a well. And maybe also bribe an old rancher to tell you where the good water hides. Rain catchment systems are popular too, especially when paired with snowmelt. That's right, your roof becomes a glacier funnel. It's beautiful and mildly terrifying, but let's not sugarcoat it. Montana winters will break you if you're not ready. The cold doesn't care about your hopes and dreams. It's 30 degrees Celsius. Your beard froze to your jacket, and a moose is blocking your truck because it wants your leftover chili. You'll be chopping wood in 3 layers of flannel while questioning all your life choices. But then the sun rises over a frozen lake, and you remember why you came here. Montana doesn't offer comfort. It offers clarity. No distractions. No nonsense. Just you, nature, and the deafening silence of a world that no longer owns you. If you want off-grid living with a side of spiritual awakening, this is your altar. Just bring firewood. So much firewood. Number 2, Texas. Big land, big skies, and zero interest in your business. Now, before you scoff and say, Texas? Really? Let me remind you of something. Texas is enormous. Like, bigger than most countries enormous. And once you step outside the metro zones, you'll find vast swaths of dirt-cheap land, minimal oversight, and a cultural attitude that can only be described as, don't tell me what to do or I'll shoot my water heater out of principle. And I say that with love. Let's talk land prices. In West Texas, counties like Hudspeth, Culberson, or Brewster, you can buy 20 acres of raw land for $10,000. That's $50 an acre. That's cheaper than dinner for 2 at Applebee's, and this land is yours forever. No lease, no HOA, no Karen from accounting asking why you're living in a converted barn. Texas doesn't require building permits in most rural counties. You can build a cabin, a pole barn, or a UFO landing pad, and nobody's checking up on you. Want to put up an off-grid shipping container fortress powered by solar and spite? Texas applauds you. Some areas are so remote that there are literally no zoning laws. Like not even a suggestion. It's like the Wild West with better tacos. Water is your biggest challenge. Rainfall varies wildly. East Texas is lush, humid, and full of natural springs. West Texas, that's Mad Max country. You'll need water tanks, a reliable catchment system, or a drilled well. And don't be surprised if the local water table looks at you like, who's this guy? Still, it's doable. And Texans are creative. I've seen people here rig up full aquaponics systems in the desert with fish, barrels, and duct tape. Solar? Off the charts. Texas ranks in the top 5 sunniest states, and solar panels out here generate more power than your average suburban transformer. You'll see off-gridders running full homes, water heaters, and even AC off solar alone, because out here the sun works overtime and asks no questions. But here's the real reason Texas lands at number 2, attitude. Texans believe in freedom with a capital F. You want to raise goats, grow your own food, live 40 miles from the nearest paved road and bathe in a horse trough? Go for it. And people won't just tolerate you. They'll offer you a beer and a generator. Taxes? No state income tax, and some of the lowest property taxes in rural zones. Plus, Texas has agricultural exemptions that can lower your land tax to almost nothing if you raise livestock, even if it's just 2 confused alpacas and a rooster with anger issues. Texas is more than cowboy hats and BBQ. It's an off-grid haven hidden in plain sight. Just be prepared for dust, snakes, and the occasional unsolicited political debate at the feed store. Freedom isn't free, but in Texas, it's shockingly close. Number 1, Florida. Yes, really. Swamp magic, tax breaks, and the absolute legal loophole wonderland. All right, deep breath. Because number 1 is Florida. And I can already hear the eyebrows rising. But before you launch into, isn't Florida full of alligators, hurricanes, and people who argue with traffic cones? Yes, and that's exactly why it's perfect. Let me hit you with the truth. Florida is the most shockingly pro-off-grid state in America, especially if you play it smart and know where to look. In counties like Levy, Gilchrist, Liberty, and Suwannee, tucked far away from Miami madness and Disney drama, you can find 1 to 5 acre lots for $2,000 to $5,000, and not junk land. We're talking forested, flat, sometimes already cleared, and begging for a weird cabin, a rain barrel, and a solar panel you stole from your cousin. And now the kicker. Florida has no state income tax. Zero. Nada. Pair that with homestead exemptions that can reduce your property taxes to nearly nothing, and you're looking at a state where you can live in a homemade plywood paradise and still not owe the government more than a few $100 a year. Building codes? Technically, yes, but in rural counties, enforcement is flexible. Many off-gridders build under the radar, register as agricultural structures, or use Florida's infamous tiny house and mobile dwelling loopholes. Some even legally camp on their own land, rotating tents or trailers every 30 days to avoid permanent dwelling regulations. That's not a workaround. That's state law. Florida is basically playing 4D chess with off-grid living. Water? There's so much water you'll start dreaming about it. Springs, wells, rain, swamps. Pick your poison. Wells are shallow, rain barrels fill in a week, and ponds are so common that some folks use them for bathing, laundry, and questionable fishing. Just keep an eye out for gators. They don't knock. Solar? Florida didn't get the nickname the Sunshine State for nothing. You'll get 300 days of solar production per year, and with net metering laws and tax credits still in play, going off-grid doesn't just work here, it's encouraged. Entire communities have popped up living 100% solar in places that look like the Everglades meets Burning Man. Now yes, hurricanes happen. But guess what? That's when off-gridders shine. When the grid collapses, the off-grid folks are still cooking dinner, powering their radios, and watching everyone else realize they don't know how to open a can without electricity. And that's why Florida tops this list. Not because it's easy, but because it's real, messy, legal, loopy, and full of opportunity. Florida lets you be weird, wild, and off-grid, legally, affordably, and gloriously. So if you're ready to wrestle a gator for your bathwater, catch rain like it's a paycheck, and build a solar kingdom out of pallets and dreams, congratulations. Florida is your swampy, sweaty, perfect paradise.